ranch for $19,500. But that was like 63, and your old man was pulling $130 a week. You think 20 grand didn't look like a reaming of Journey to the Center of the Earth proportions? Part of the problem is that people always want to live in the most desirable areas, supply and demand. You have to think outside the overpriced box. Check out the lower-priced neighborhoods, like those in older parts of town, industrial areas, or North Dakota. In North Dakota, you can get a 6-bedroom, 3.5-bath with 50 acres and a fully stocked tornado shelter, a mere 14-hour dog sled ride from beautiful downtown Freesburn, Minnesota, all for 40 G's. Hey, at that price, you could even afford a vacation condo in sunny, exotic South Dakota. Phil Hendrie is up next. He's redefined talk radio by doing most of the talking himself. Here's the man behind the Phil Hendrie Show with tonight's cathartic screed.
Hi. You know, I know we just had a great Super Bowl, and I realize that this Pete Rose thing is done, but I do have one final request. I'd like you to take a look at the face of Pete Rose on a magazine, anywhere you might see it. Because what you're seeing is the face of professional sports. It's ugly, it's stupid, and it's self-absorbed, and it's criminal. Players, owners, all of them. Criminality and arrogance. There's nothing there anymore, folks. In point of fact, there never was. Now, we've got generations of minority men who've been told by the professional sports establishment, owners and players, and even their parents, play ball, this is where your destiny lies. All of your heroes are here, and they're all black. These will be your heroes. Hence, we've got millions of young men who might have chosen science, medicine, or the law. They've opted for the road that laid open for them, dribbling a basketball. You know, there were never any heroes, really. Joe DiMaggio, we now find out, was a skinflint and a lousy father. Ditto Vince Lombardi. One of the sports world's truly great dumbasses is Bobby Hull, the hockey player. You know, an ex-wife of his claims he beat her bloody and senseless at times. Not that anybody noticed. And today, of course, we have Kobe Bryant, who has about as much respect for his wife as Bobby Hull had for all three of his. Now, off the field, we're told to take these guys seriously as broadcasters, as actors. I can tell you this, if any of them came into my radio studio, the first thing I'd have them do is get me coffee. They're quoted as if they're Winston Churchill or Martin Luther King. The smallest, dumbest joke is reprinted the next day on the sports page as high comedy. And that's another thing. You sports writers are the worst. You know you hate those guys. You hang around athletes pretending to like them because you need access. I want to tell the pro athletes out there right now, there has never been any sports writer that has ever respected you, ever. They'd probably like to. I know they've claimed to, but they know you guys only too well. However, I want you to know that I like you as long as you play your silly game, take your big paycheck, and off the field, keep your big fat mouth shut, and your life relatively clean. You know, the age of big sports is drawing to a close, so you guys are on borrowed time. However, great Super Bowl. Good job, Mr. Moonves. You may want to cut that.
Thanks, Phil. Up next, John Wolfstall will not only talk nuclear proliferation, but also teach us how to make a decorative Valentine's Day card.
Everybody focus.
Well, this isn't going to be your everyday panel.
We're on TV! My God! Hi, Paul!
All right.
I'm not on TV a lot. This is big for me.
Gloria, quit doing your impression of Dana. Time to meet the
I was
varsity
drawing
panel.
my voice.
He's a
Fashion.
actor, comedian.
Let's stay
My
focused.
dearest friends, the Carvers here. Dana Carvey, what's happening, big guy?
This is a cool show. This is really great.
Yeah. Right.
Kind of quiet in here.
Yeah, no crowd. I know, we got to get a crowd. She's a celebrated attorney and the people's tireless advocate, and, yeah.
This is for the World Wide Web. All red and Carvey. There, we got our
Forget Dana's previous credits. He's now considered a litigant.
Crime Minute. Easy DM.
Lastly, he's the author of the book Tales from the Left Coast, columnist for Newsmax.com. James Herson. I'm going to cut to the chase here before Carvey's pleased with this.
I'm on task and I'm on topic. What do you got, D? Lay it on me. Come
Gay
on.
marriage, man. You in one?
I want to talk gays out of it. Why do they want to break into that hell called marriage? What do they want? The rest? Where have you been, Herbert? Damn it! Now that we're married, I'm just sick of your antics. I say just stay loosey-goosey. You're my husband. I thought I was the wife. Shut up! Anyway, Marriage is a prison that everyone wants to escape into. So my point of view is gay people is not all it's cranked up to be. We got a half century of marriage here.
Anybody remember when gay people were rebels? What happened here?
Why do they want to get married? It's a hell. That's my jokey part, my real opinion.
Gloria.
Well, you know, there's something to be said for your argument, but on the other hand, really, it's a very important issue. It's the civil rights issue this year, because it's important that people who are gay, people who are lesbian, not be treated as second-class citizens, not be denied the equal protection of the law.
You think they are, Gloria?
Oh, absolutely. If they can't get married...
They are by gay bashers. You know, there's a bunch of morons out there who do think, but for the most part, do you think this society still treats...
Well, absolutely. If they're not permitted legally to be married, they're being treated as second-class citizens who are separate and unequal, and civil unions and domestic partnerships, Dennis, don't do it, because that simply underlines their second-class status. They have to be able to enjoy all the rights and responsibilities of marriage if they choose to be married.
Well, she's got a point. I never thought of that.
I think that, listen, I like the idea.
I'm in love.
You gave a very nice speech. I would have tripped over my words and marriage and gay, and I just want everyone to love me. But you're very cool.
And that's what it's all about, because there are many people who are gay and who are lesbian who are in loving, committed relationships.
If I was a woman, would you marry me? See, now you get a little...
All
right, we'll go to a commercial.
To pull the trigger on it, you're not
The
there.
only reason I'm hesitating, because I'm madly in love with you, is because I know you're already married and I don't want to commit bigamy. Now, on the other hand, if you're ready to leave your wife,
look,
I do.
Well, man and man can marry, woman and woman can marry. I agree with you.
Well, when do the bigamists come in light of...
I had a joke.
In light of the... I just have to ask you real quick, you bring up bigamy. When does the bigamist come in if homosexual marriage is ruled?
That's where I was going to go.
Yeah, you can make a better argument historically and traditionally for polygamy than you really can for same-sex marriage. I mean, if you look at, since the dawn of civilization, it's never been institutionalized by any society up until very recently. And by the way, an observation, this is a political nightmare for the Democrats. Have you noticed?
Bernie Frank say that.
It's not a
political nightmare.
I did hear Barney say
Why is
this
it
was gonna
Barbara
be
Boxer,
It's an opportunity.
Dianne Feinstein are distancing themselves, you know, from this little act of civil disobedience, and that's what it is. It's civil disobedience.
But it's a long overdue act of civil disobedience, because why should they have to tolerate? Why should they have to suffer not being permitted to marry? And they can't marry the person of their choice. So the right to marry means nothing unless you can choose to marry the person you're not
divorce lawyers.
You got a point too. I agree with both of you.
He has no point, because this isn't about
tolerance, man. Come on, baby, peace.
Yeah, but it's not about marrying more than one person. So the polygamy argument is just totally not on point. It's about marrying one person and not being denied the right under the California Constitution to marry the person of your choice.
My heart tells me I'd like to see anybody married. I like people who are in love. I like them to be able to consummate that with a marriage. My head tells me, when I hear this already, that they're talking about San Francisco's now filing a lawsuit against us, say, forget it, they're going to drive me off this case, because I'm sick of getting sued. There's one part of me that says, yeah, I like everybody to be in love, but this lawsuit, indeed, is, I think, a bad idea.
It's a great idea, and actually, I'm going to be filing a lawsuit very, very soon on behalf...
Oh, there's a shocker. That's
What? Oh, my God.
I could wake you up at 4 in the morning, you'd be filing a brief.
On behalf of a gay couple and a lesbian couple who were denied the right to marry when they went for a marriage license application at Beverly Hills City Hall on February 12th, and I'm representing them. We will be filing a lawsuit very soon, right here in the Los Angeles.
Do you have your own wine locker at the courthouse now? Or
You've all had your piece, now I'll put it all together, because I'm the raging moderate.
All right, Carvey, tell me what you think.
Gay marriage is inevitable, but really tread lightly and slowly and tiptoe toward it.
State by state?
State by state, and so it is inevitable. You will get what you want. The Christian people will be happy too. And your show's getting an audience and going to 5 nights a week, buddy.
But you know what? We shouldn't have to fight for our rights plantation by plantation. And people who are gay...
Crazy talk.
Well, state by state...
Glory, that's crazy talk.
Anyways, let's end with that, because it can't get more... That was weird, Gloria. Next up, we'll see if Mel Gibson can walk on the hot water he's in right after this. Plantation.
OnStar, how can I help you?
How far to Miami?
Shrimp? Love is like candy on a shelf.
I love off-roading.
Me too.
To taste and help yourself.
This film has some anti-Semitic undertones. Other people who've seen it say it's the truth. Indeed, they got a blurb from the Pope, which he then went back on. It is as it was. There are other allegations that Mel's father has less than mainstream views on the Holocaust. And lastly, many of the theaters showing the film are selling something called jujubes at the counter, which could be a little anti-Semitic. So,
Yeah.
Jimmy, you've seen it. Tell us what you think, my friend.
I have seen it. I've been to a number of screenings. And
You've
I've
seen
had,
it more than once?
Yes, I have. And I've also been in the editing room with Mel Gibson. I got to know him because I've been covering this story for a year. This is unprecedented. When this film was being shot in Rome, they started basically digging into his family and his finances. I say some members of the press, a freelance reporter from the New York Times. It started over a year ago, and it's never happened before. And
you don't think?
Well, not like this.
You don't think Hearst looked into wells when Citizen Kane was coming out, my friend? Trust me, he was reamed.
But what I'm saying is what Mel Gibson has had to put up with is personal insults, personal attacks over this film. He's had to put up with scripts being stolen, ad hoc scholars criticizing it before the final script was in, pirated prints. He's had threats of demonstrations blocking his distribution. And look at, here's a guy, Harris Poll said he was the most bankable star in Hollywood. I mean, he could have sat on his keister, he could have done sequels and fattened up his bank account. Instead, he went out to executives and said, hey, you want to do a film about the death of Christ in Aramaic? And of course, they weren't going to invest, so he put up his own money. So what's lost in the, hold on a second, Gloria, what's lost in this controversy is something the media upholds and something Hollywood upholds, free expression. And if we're going to defend Martin Scorsese's Last Temptation of Christ, which I do, if we're going to defend Andre Serrano putting a crucifix in urine, which I do except for the tax money, or the picture of Virgin Mary with elephant dung, then we ought to not try to shackle Mel Gibson.
Now, Gloria, I understand you have filed a suit against Christ.
You actually sued Jesus?
No, I haven't. No.
God, woman, have you no shame?
No, it's one of the few that
No,
I haven't sued. But, this whole...
That's crazy talk.
Sorry,
go ahead.
That's all right.
I just like saying that.
Hey,
It's
church,
crazy
I just
talk.
love listening to you, so it's fine. But, for Jim to sit here and try to portray Mel Gibson as the victim is, it's really laughable, Jim. But you did it with a straight face, and I'll tell you why. He's going to make a ton of money. He's trying to portray himself as a victim who couldn't get this film out.
Meanwhile,
it's coming out big and time.
Silly lady.
Oh, come on. He's making a ton.
Sexy lady.
Just
No.
He very well could. He very well could. Do you think that was the intention?
Look,
No, Andy Foxman is working for Mel Gibson.
You know what? I didn't interrupt you. I'd like to finish. The real victims in this are Jewish people who are being portrayed, just as the Anti-Defamation League said, as bloodthirsty, as responsible for the death of Jesus. And what is wrong with that is that this is very dangerous. It is dangerous because it fan the fires of hate against Jewish people. And you know what? People have... I haven't seen it, but I am saying...
That's a big ticket in this discussion.
No, wait a second.
Let me tell you why that's not true.
No, if in fact what the Anti-Defamation League has said, and they have seen it, is true, it can lead to attacks on Jewish people all over the world. In fact, this kind of thing has led to an attack. There is a Protestant pastor who was being tried for murder of Jewish people, and he said these acts were the fulfillment of the self-condemnation which the Jews had brought upon themselves before the tribunal of Pontius Pilate.
I don't want to turn this into Lenny reading his court records at the village gate.
I'm just telling you that there have been people who have committed murder against Jewish people around the world. And that isn't even counting the Holocaust.
What about the Jewish scholars?
Because they thought that Jews were responsible for the death of Jesus, and it's unfair, and it's wrong,
Gloria,
and it's a lie.
would you ban the movie? I'm just asking you. Would you have the movie thrown out of theaters if you had the power to do it?
No, I don't.
You wouldn't?
No, absolutely not. But I would like him to have portrayed it accurately.
He did
we haven't
portray
seen
it
the movie, though.
accurately. Can I just
Accurately in your eyes, though, Gloria.
Well, accurately, no. Listen,
one
the Second Vatican
This-
Council...
Listen, honey, if you want to plunk down 25 mil of your own dough, you can make your vision. I think this is Mel's vision, right?
Even the Vatican has said that the Jews were not responsible for the death of Jesus. So to try in this film to portray the Romans as compassionate and the Jews as somehow bloodthirsty and lusting for Jesus' death
I would say
is
this.
wrong.
Listen, I respect you on a lot of matters, and I think you're really well spoken. but I think it points out the ludicrousness of this dialogue. You have not seen the film, and that's something that's happening in this country right now. We are forming in-cement opinions about things that you even say you have not seen
But
yet.
I'm telling you, Representative, the Jewish organizations have seen it.
And I'd like to
if that
mention
is the
something
portrayal,
about it here.
it's dangerous.
Let's let the one person who's seen it button this up, Jim. I got to wrap,
It
so give
opens
it to
up
me
with
quick.
a scene that makes it clear to the audience that there's no corporate blame, that the blame is on all people, all sinners. As a matter of fact, to underscore that, the hand that is pounding the nails into Jesus on the crucifixion is Mel Gibson's hand. And so it's not like one of those.
Well, listen,
places.
Christopher Hitchens has a
opportunity.
pretty brilliant article on this. It's not everybody's take, but it's an interesting take in Vanity Fair. I suggest everybody read that. He's a little too mean against Mel, but he also makes some good points historically, and I think that would be a good place to start reading that. I want to throw it to a commercial now. Thanks to my varsity team, Dana Carvey, Gloria Allred, James Herson. Well, when we come back, Carvey and Gloria are going to be making out a little.
Come on.
Well, World Wide Web.
Hey, folks, let's cut to the chase. The Pentagon says it's going to hold some of these carbon-based death machines at Guantanamo Bay a while longer, and some lawyers are flying into a bigger frenzy than Donald Wildman at an LPGA event. What am I missing here? Humans have taken their enemies prisoner since the days when the latest in battlefield technology was the opposable thumbs. And yes, we're a constitutional democracy that provides certain rights, but what good is our Constitution going to be if there is no United States left? Let's stop worrying about the so-called rights of these virgin-loving demolition experts and start focusing on the real problem, that there's still some of these walking dirty bombs who aren't in Guantanamo Bay. Listen, when they're all in their cages, then we'll talk about rights, okay? Up next, find out why Senator George Allen stresses good schools, a strong military, and why his football-rich family thought I was the greatest announcer in the history of the NFL.
This week's solution from Office Depot, savings on paper.
Senate Foreign Relations and Commerce Committees, as Virginia Senator. Good man. I've met him before, Senator George Allen. How you doing, sir?
Great,
Nice to have
Dennis.
you here.
Good to be with you.
I should tell you that Senator Allen's father was, to my way of thinking, one of the greatest football coaches ever, George Allen. I went back and looked at his record. Your old man never had a losing record. That's such an anomaly in the NFL.
It is, but he had great assistant coaches. He was a good judge of talent and had some good characters on his teams, whether with the Redskins or with the Rams, and was very blessed with good, hard-working folks who wanted the team to be prepared, and they always wanted to hit hard.
Yeah,
and
he
watch good
inspired
things
those
happen.
guys, man. You see those old footage of Pardee and Deere and Talbert in the locker room. They wanted to run through walls for that guy when he was
Darren
with the
Talbot
Skins.
was quite a character, and Billy Kilmer and a bunch of those guys.
Tough guys.
And Ken Houston, boy, I tell you, he made one of the greatest tackles on the goal line ever.
Yeah, Kenny Houston, great safety. Now listen, I want to talk to you about the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. I understand that at some point, that is where a formal declaration of war would, in the initial part of the process, have to go through there. I'm saying just for symbolic purposes, why don't we declare war on the entity that is terror? I know it's not a country, but why don't we formalize this war? Because I do believe it's a formal war.
Well, as a practical matter, we have done it. You do it in every appropriations bill with the money that's being put in to support our troops, to support defense intelligence, clearly Homeland Security, the tens of billions
I mean
of
a
dollars.
one-line edict.
Let's just
Attention
say-
terrorists, we've declared war on you, United States. Something that like keeps them from sleeping more than 2 or 3 hours at a time.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah,
Not a bad. We've in effect done it.
Yeah, they don't look at appropriations and stuff. I mean
I
something
mean,
that
they
would
don't
scare
read
the out
those,
of them.
those hundreds of pages and read those line items in there.
They can't,
Well-
the flashlight burns out before they can get through it.
I think those precision-guided missiles that were hitting in various caves in Afghanistan, and the Taliban certainly knows about it. Al-Qaeda clearly knows it, and all those other terrorist groups do as well. Passing such a resolution, I would think, I would hope, even though it's very partisan, would actually pass, I would hope, 100-0.
Yeah, you'd hope, but I'd love to see who it ratted out, who didn't vote for it. That'd be information. Now listen, one of the reasons that everybody on the left seems to allocate, although my feeling is that until I see this oil pillaging go on that they always say we're going to do, we never do it. I mean, it's been since '92. I keep thinking, hey, doesn't this
eventually have to take place before it starts to, you know, it's fantasy. We don't take their oil. One of the reasons people think we do is because we don't drill here in Anwar. I never understand that. Why are caribou more important than people?
Caribou are very important, but you know what?
They're not, George.
No,
You have
sure
to
they
say
are.
that.
No, they have good hides. And
They're reindeer who couldn't make the show.
No, look, people are worried about the caribou up on the north slope of Alaska, and I've actually been up there in late November. It's like the dark side of the moon. In the summer, it's just full of mosquitoes. There's more weight in mosquitoes than there are in caribou. Well, currently at Prudhoe Bay, the caribou aren't bothered by any of this. You've got to be a pretty hardy animal to be able to survive in that climate to begin with.
Or whiny, like they are.
Whiny, they never go
They've
up there.
hired lobbyists.
The reality is we have high gas prices, and people, your viewers, are right now paying high gas prices. Our natural gas prices are skyrocketing as well. The reason is we're not utilizing our reserves, our resources here in this country. So we're more dependent on foreign oil, and as far as natural gas, you can't pipe it in. It has to be liquefied. So the point is, it's hurting jobs in this country with the high natural gas prices, especially for the chemical and fertilizer manufacturers who are going to go overseas and will lose those jobs. Obviously, it's a drain on the economy, and anybody who drives, anybody who gets something that comes by truck, or even our airlines are being adversely affected by it. We can drill or explore on the north slope of Alaska in a very environmentally sound way. The technologies are better, the infrastructure's there, and we'll be less dependent on foreign sources of oil, not having to worry about the Middle East or upheavals in Venezuela. And that'll help our country be stronger economically as well as militarily. Unfortunately, the radical environmentalists make this a big issue for raising money, and no one cares about the sound science. It's all political science.
Plus, in an election year, Senator Allen, quite frankly, when they're going to try to flog the president with a jobless recovery, I don't think they're in the business of helping you create jobs in this country right now.
No, but we ought to be cheering and hoping for ideas and policies and laws and tax cuts that actually help create more jobs and allow families to keep more of what they earn. And clearly, with the country right now, as far as oil, that 60% of our oil's imported, we ought to want to be more independent. I think the vast majority of people, if they knew the facts, would be for it. In Alaska, Democrats are for it, most of the Democrats. Republicans are all for it. The Indians are for it. The Eskimos are for it. And the only people who are opposed to it are some folks down here in the lower 48 who want to take away this opportunity for this country to be more secure, and it's also a big jobs issue for this country. There would be literally millions of jobs created if that were developed, and we need to act on it. I hope we'll get an energy bill done this year. The Democrats, as usual, have been obstructing constructive ideas such as this.
Do penguins get the vote up there? Do they have the vote yet?
There's no penguins up there. Penguins are in Antarctica.
I knew that. Testing you. All right. Kerry or Edwards, who do you see them sending forth to do battle with our president?
We'll take on whichever one. I think
Give me a little scratch seat on each one of them.
Each one, Kerry, of course, has a good record in some regards. Everyone admires his service in Vietnam. His record as a U.S. Senator is very far left. If we're up to him, we wouldn't be driving around in pickup trucks, SUVs, and minivans. We'd be in smaller, less safe vehicles. He has a very liberal voting record, as does Senator Edwards. He hasn't been a member of the Senate as long. I do think that people are going to be looking at two key things as a leader. One, who has the best ideas to make this country more competitive for investment and jobs, and who would be the best president to lead us through this war on terrorism. On both counts, I think people across this country will have more comfort and confidence in President Bush to keep leading.
Well, George, you're a very well-mannered young man, and I have no doubt I'll be seeing you make a plunge into the presidential run somewhere down the road, my friend. Thank you, Senator Allen. We'll be right back after this with something.
Every year.
That was the show. Allred talked my beard off. Bah, bah, bah. And I also have an unfortunate side effect of occasionally sounding like the penguin. Bah, 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 bah. I want to thank my guests tonight, House Speaker Dennis Hassert, Senator George Allen, varsity panel. All those three guys at the end, they were really good. Hey, folks, next week, some of my guests will include Oscar winner Michael Douglas, pundit and author Ann Coulter, screenwriter Joe Esterhaus, nominated filmmaker Errol Morris, and critic David Denby. I guess it's Oscar week. Good night. I said good night. Anyway, I've been using a new facial cream. Made my face look like Carvey. SPF 15 on the face, 4 on the shoulder, and 2 on the shin. I have no idea what that means. Bill O'Reilly will be... No, that's the other network. We... Hi, this is what you're doing, this is what I want you to do. Any questions? It's a very lonely place here in television land. We at the Dennis Miller Show want to apologize for Dana Carvey's appearance tonight. He seemed disfocused, unorientated, and a little flirtatious with Gloria Allred. Sometimes when they touch, the honesty's too much. I think someone said a long time ago. There was a lot of sexual heat on the panel, and the passion of Christ wasn't just his.